It's WSMV4 News at 6.
4 days after a school bus crossed the center line and hit a TDOT truck, 2 Clarksville students lost their lives. Many more were hurt. But the big question still remains tonight. Why did this happen? Tonight, we are learning more about the bus driver who is still in the hospital.
Meanwhile, you know, those questions continue. Why did the bus carrying those Kenwood Middle School students drift into another lane before the crash? Our Diana Rocco was live in Clarksville. So, Diana, what'd you find out today about the driver?
Well, Jeremy, there are a lot of questions about what happened in those final moments. But today we were able to speak with some people who have known that driver very well for the last 15 years. They tell us she is in a Memphis hospital with a broken leg and internal injuries. There's not a person in the greater Clarksville community that hasn't felt the anguish of the victims and their families in the Carroll County bus crash that killed 13-year-old Ariana Pearson and Zoe Davis.
I don't know if there was anything that could have been done, but when you look at the video, you think, what happened there?
The dash cam video of the school bus crossing the yellow line has many questioning those final moments. Meanwhile, the flags remain at half-staff and the memorial outside Kenwood Middle School continues to grow.
In that video, just hearing those kids, it was heartbreaking.
People close to that 45-year-old driver say she was having family problems in the week leading up to the crash and had just broken up with a long-term girlfriend. Meanwhile, Fort Campbell says one of the victims had deep ties to their community, saying they stand in solidarity with our community during this time of immense grief.
They're never coming back. You can't replace that. I would absolutely feel heartbreaking if that was my grandchild or my child, but at least as a community we can try to provide them with a little bit of support.
And contributions have been pouring in on GoFundMe pages started for the victims, which have already amassed tens of thousands of dollars in donations. And the community, as you just saw there, has rallied around this Kenwood Middle School community. But exactly what happened in those final moments will now be up to the NTSB to determine. We're live in Clarksville. I'm Diana Rocco, WSMV4.
Oh, Diana.